Over in the pages of Marvel Comics' current X-Men titles, Marvel's mutants have barely been able to fight off some of the after effects of recent stories, including Judgment Day, where a key member of XMenRed lost their life. And the X-Men just recently were able to undo the Sins of Sinister reality in which Nathaniel Essex plunged the Marvel Universe into a false reality of his own machinations. But in the wake of all of these storylines, how does Krakoa's management feel about the whole idea of the dream anyways? My name is Arakko Braddock, and today let's go ahead and dive into the pages of XMenRed issue number 11 to see how Marvel's mutants are doing in the post-Sins of Sinister Marvel Universe. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. And I want to go ahead and kick things off by reading Marvel Comics' solicitation text for XMenRed issue 11, The Calm Before. After Brand's machinations and the Sins of Sinister, the mutants of Arakko are catching their breath. But even as Storm begins a new romance, she has no time to rest. Charles Xavier has questions about Magneto's death, and he's not asking nicely. So XMenRed 11 is written over from Ewing, featuring artwork over from Stefano Caselli and Jacopo Camagni. We have colors over from Federico Blee, letters from VC's Ariana Maher, and design over from Tom Muller. The cover on XMenRed 11 is illustrated over from Russell Dauterman and Matthew Wilson. Here's a look at Dauterman and Wilson's really epic cover, showing Storm kind of having a really climactic sort of conversation over with Professor Xavier a little bit later on in the issue. I want to go ahead and kick things off a little bit by talking over about Stefano Caselli and Jacopo Camagni's art. I really enjoy the kind of curved line that both of these artists bring in the issue. I think Jacopo Camagni in particular as an artist is a little bit different than what readers are typically used to seeing in this issue. And I did enjoy how expressive Camagni was able to get with some of his art in the tale. One thing that I did have a little bit of an issue with is some of the details on certain aspects of characters aren't always consistent from page to page. The thing that I really want to go ahead and talk a little bit about is Professor Xavier's helmet looks different in so many of the different scenes across the issue, but I still do like the kind of the more casual way that Camagni is able to capture the expressions from several characters. I really particularly enjoyed the way that Camagni was able to interpret the kind of pre-Krakoa look over at Nathaniel Essex, in particular over in the issue 2. And I think that some of the really kind of candid moments in conversation bring out really fantastic elements of the artwork. And just really enjoyed kind of all of the colors throughout the issue as well. I think the kind of the sense of color over from Federico Blee in XMenRed 11 just looks really tremendous kind of throughout the issue. I want to go ahead and switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the writing over in XMenRed. First off, the kind of issue opens with Storm on a date with a character named Craig. Really enjoyed the way that this issue kind of had such a settle and sort of meek opening for a big, sprawling sci-fi comic book. I thought some of the characterization for Storm and Ewing in these moments was really fantastic here. Also, in the kind of next scene following, we really got the chance to catch up on some of the inner politics within Arakko, thanks to a scene over with Sunspot and Nova in the issue, and really enjoyed some of the insights on how the Great Ring is changing in the issue as well. I think some of the art was able to capture excellent candid facial expressions for Sunspot in this chapter of the issue as well. Following this scene, we get this sort of really climactic conversation between Storm and Professor Xavier. Honestly, I think this conversation between the duo has been a long time coming. There's been so many developments that have happened in recent X-Men stories, and it's kind of felt like the team at large has had to deal with the impending threats instead of deal with some of the lingering emotional consequences from some of the stories. And I did like how there's so much sort of conflict between Xavier and Storm in in this portion of the issue. But the one thing about this scene is ultimately, I think Storm ends up coming off a little bit negative in the issue, as she has so many sort of harsh words for Professor Xavier and kind of reinterprets her origins in a little bit of a more negative sort of context in the issue. And what I'm hoping for maybe is that this could potentially be the start of a bigger storyline, maybe between Storm and Professor Xavier, where Storm is able to see things maybe a little bit more from his perspective, even though there's so much that they disagree on over in the story. And also, I really appreciated in the last couple pages how the sort of next storyline for XMenRed has sort of been brewing. Over with a mysterious character who is present in a lot of Sins of Sinister issues that shows up on the final page, teasing so many elements of Krakoa that I'm really excited to kind of check out in future issues of the story. But really glad that amidst all of the chaos happening over in the world of X-Men, that Al Ewing took the sort of first issue of XMenRed to reestablish the board, just like the other sister titles of X-Men have done, similar to kind of Immortal X-Men over in the Marvel Universe. And also, before we kind of stray away from this conversation between Storm and Xavier, I just want to say that there's some really fascinating psychic implications as well that have kind of spawned out of the Sins of Sinister storyline. And also, I thought these sort of revelations towards, kind of how the founding of Krakoa was formed and how that, some of these people who had initially had this idea behind the dream no longer believe it, really make this kind of new status quo, this new scenario for the X-Men feel a little bit sort of more hostile than ever before in the series. So I really love kind of some of Al Ewing's meta commentary on the X-Men that he's able to sort of imbue into the narrative of this series. So overall here, very happy with XMenRed number 11. I think there's some really fantastic moments of characterization over in this chapter. There's some, as we mentioned before, really excellent moments of kind of commentary on the Krakoa franchise over from Al Ewing. And there's a couple really fascinating nuggets over from the Sins of Sinister crossover, as well as kind of how Krakoa was formed over in the first place. I'm really hoping that this is kind of the start of a character arc for Storm, where she's able to sort of apply tension where it needs to be. I want to thank you so much for coming to check out our video over on XMenRed issue number 11. Hope you enjoyed the issue. I want to know what some of your thoughts over with Storm were on this chapter. Did you think she was in the right over with her conversation with Professor Xavier? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for coming to check out the video, and we'll be back for everything X-Men related in the near future. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.